Good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Today we have with us Gareth. Gareth, introduce yourself. Ooh, talk that.
Hello, pleasure to be with you today, Jay, and the Homeschool Your Kids family. I am an educator. I've been an educator all my life, whether it was homeschooling or um, private school, graduate school. That's who I am, and I my passion is classical African history and giving young people an opportunity to engage with history in such a way that transforms and empowers their identity, gives them a sense of identity.
Yes, that is so important. Walk us through it. How do we get here? How do we get to what you have created?
Yes, so in the journey of homeschooling my three children, I noticed that resources as it related to history, well, first of all, because we know Black history does not start with slavery, right?
Yes.
Our history was began thousands and thousands of years before that. So, in starting with the origins of Black history, which is in Africa, we call it classical Africa, I noticed that the resources were either, kid friendly from a visual standpoint, but they didn't have the depth that I was looking for, or the resources that did have the depth that I was looking for were not very kid friendly. And so I wanted to create something that was engaging and fun for all ages, but also provided the depth to really sink their teeth into the greatness of their heritage. And what started as teaching my own kids, I turned into teaching other people's kids, teaching in the library, teaching virtually, and ultimately creating a platform that anyone can use. Um, and now it's in several schools around the country as well. And so, yeah, I'm just passionate about folks who want to give their children a more complete picture of what it means to be African and of African descent.
Ooh. Yes, yes. Let's talk about it. So, okay, you homeschooled your three. How was that? Like, how did you even get on that path? What made you decide to do that?
Well, it really started with recognizing the shortcomings of the public school system as it related to white supremacy. We just can't get around white supremacy in the public school system. It's just in the air we breathe as a country. And so
Mm,
recognizing that, I wanted to give my kids something tailor made for them, something that centered them culturally in their learning, so that they didn't feel like outsiders to the learning experience, but could really own their education. My kids are um, in public school now because of just some changes circumstantially, but which it just makes me that much more glad that I did homeschool them for the time I was able to, because now they have a great foundation in who they
you
are.
created a
They can
foundation.
they know who they are. Yeah.
That is so important. How long did y'all homeschool? What grade are they in now?
So they are 13, 10, and 8 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's nice, nice. And what was that experience like? How did you shape it? How did it look? Did y'all follow a classical model? Were y'all more on the unschooling tip? Like how was that?
Homeschool families. Homeschool Yo Kids Expo and Homeschool Beats Academy are teaming up to bring you a day of real support and real inspiration. Come explore curriculum and enrichment, meet trusted vendors, and connect with the homeschool community. And at our featured Expo stop, meet Homeschool Beats Academy and see how students ages 7 to 18 can create original music through beat making and production with parent-friendly guidance. Get dates and details at homeschoolyokidsexpo.com.
Well, the way that I am, I'm a very regimented type of person. So I had a routine, and we covered a myriad of subjects from, history, science, math, reading and writing, coding, music. I play the drums, so I taught them how to play the drums and read drumming music. Basically trying to teach everything I knew to
Hmm.
them. And so, but I think the most rewarding part of homeschooling for me was just the bond that I was able to create with my kids. You know, you just cannot replace the time, you know, the fruits of the time spending with them all day, every day. You just can't replicate that. And so the bond we have now, just yeah, it's best decision ever.
Oh, I love that. I know that's, people always, oh, you homeschool? Oh, I couldn't do that. It's like, just say you don't like your kids. Just say that. Like, if you don't like your kids, just say that. But no, I appreciate the bond. I appreciate the accountability that we hold for each other. I appreciate the time, really. I really do. Because I couldn't imagine them being gone for most of the day and then trying to catch up. Like, that's the thing. Like, you try to catch up when they come home and get to what did you do today? And they can't even give you all of what they did or what all they took in over that course of 7, 8 hours a day. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So.
Homeschool families, are you ready to refresh your plans for the year? Join us at the Homeschool Yo Kids Expo. Meet curriculum and enrichment vendors, discover new programs, and connect with a community that gets it, all in one place. Come with questions, leave with real options. Get event details and register now at homeschoolyokidsexpo.com. That's homeschoolyokidsexpo.com.
I definitely understand
Definitely an
that.
adjustment. Mm-hmm. Definitely an
Yes.
adjustment. Yes.
So with how you structure, because you decided to homeschool because, like you said, it was rooted in what you already understood that you didn't want your children to have that foundation. So you started homeschooling, but you say you taught in private school? You
Well, this was, yes, before, let's see, when my son was very, very young, I taught in private school for a short period of time. I taught math. So I've taught a
mm,
variety of subjects. I've taught math, I've taught, uh, social sciences, I've taught athletics, I'm just kind of, I teach a whole lot of different things.
okay.
Yeah. And so it's just, I come from a family of educators. My great grandparents were teachers, and, every generation. And even if it wasn't teaching in a traditional sense, like in a school, uh, people were teaching something in some way. And so,
Mhm.
you know, it's just part of where I come from, who I come from. I come from teachers. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's how it should be. Our lessons coming from our elders and those around us, our community, and all of us tapping into each other and that knowledge that we hold. Like, hey, okay, I'm not too privy on this, but so and so is. So go talk to them about it. Go sit with them for a little bit. I remember when I was struggling with Spanish, and my neighbor told my mom, just let her stay over here for 2 weeks. She'll be speaking Spanish. She was like, that was her. She was Puerto Rican. And Stars like, let us stay here for like 2 weeks. So she'll be speaking Spanish. And I wish my mama would have took her on phone out off of honey because I still ain't got it at all after all those years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teaching is
Yeah.
just I think for me, yes, like relationships with elders, being taught myself by people and just conversation. I think sometimes you just learn how to teach by being taught. And growing up, I was always being taught something,
Yes.
and so I learned how to teach that way. And teaching for me now, in terms of it being who I am, it's one of the ways I show love. If I love someone, I'm gonna try
Yes.
to teach them something. Like it's what I do.
Yes.
If I know something, I'm gonna try to share it. Not because I think I know more than anyone else. It's just I like to
You
learn.
should know this. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like, so let me just share everything I know, and we can learn together.
yes,
So yeah,
yes. No,
it's an
I
easy way to teach.
appreciate that.
Hmm.
Yes, as it should
Hmm.
be. We are here to learn from each other. Like that's the whole, I think our whole nature is learning and being able to adapt to each other and learn what it is. Cause that's how lessons are typically handled on the oral tradition of before we started
Exactly.
writing stuff. Like, we weren't always doing all that stuff. And I'm reading this right now, The Science of Self. And
Mm.
this talks about
Your kid has music in them. They just need the right tools to let it out. Homeschool Beats Academy teaches kids ages 7 to 18 how to make real beats at home on their schedule, in their own style. No experience needed. Grab the complete First Beat Kit free at homebeatsacademy.com. That's homeschoolbeatsacademy.com.
the foundations of math, like how all of our brains were basically programmed to understand mathematics above anything, like numerology in general, before language, before words, before any of that. And so it's like naturally we're all like programmed to, I don't think in numbers, I guess. Like I'm
Mm.
still reading. I'm still
Yeah.
reading, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was so interesting because
Yeah.
I've never considered myself a math person, and that's only because of my classes. Like the teachers that I've had for math, they kind of turned me off from it because they were so mean. They were so
Mm.
mean. My math teachers were mean, and so I've always had like this dislike. But the more I'm growing and the more I'm learning and understanding more about myself, I'm learning like, oh no, math is that's the root. Like you got to get with that.
Yes, absolutely. And I like that connection you just made between as you learn more about yourself, then things began to open in other areas. And I feel like that is part of why I created this program, Your African Histories, because I wanted to create something that spoke directly to Black students, Black families. Like this isn't just a general kind of history that, oh, I mean, anyone can take it, doesn't matter what your cultural background, but it speaks directly to Black students. And we're always connecting the dots between what does this fact of history say about who you are.
Who
And
you are.
it's really about self-discovery, because history, what I found is the gateway to showing up with confidence in all your other subjects. Because when you're grounded in who you are, and you have confidence in where you come from, it gives you a sense of somebodiness that you bring to math, to science, to reading
To
and
everything
writing,
else. Yeah.
and even the way you think about, as you alluded to, even the way you think about math. Like for example, in the course we talk about how our ancestors invented geometry. When the Nile River would flood, the land would be covered with uh, would flood with water, and the soil and once the floods would kind of cover the soil, when the floodwaters receded back and the floodwaters went down, they had to redistribute the land fairly because now all the boundaries had been messed up because of the flood. And so geometry was invented to divide the land fairly so people had the same amount of land to farm as they had before the floods came. And so as a kid, we connect the dots between, well, if your ancestors invented geometry and algebra, because the earliest algebra that we see documented was done by Africans on a script called the Rhine Mathematical Papyrus. So if your ancestors invented geometry and algebra, how can you say you're not a math person?
Exactly. And see, that's the thing. Like, oh, and when you look, and you talking about geometry, honey, that's a whole trigger because geometry was my worst subject in all my high school experience. Geometry did a number on me, love, and that geometry is the reason why I say I'm not a math person. That's the subject that got me like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna just read. I'm gonna just read. I'm gonna teach this over here because I can't do this. But if I had known that, oh no, this is in you, girl. Like this is
Right.
this do away with all. And it's funny because my oldest, whenever we doing math, she always calling government math. It's like, oh, this government math. But with reading this book that I'm reading, I get why she's saying that now, because our brains are equipped to handle math in a different way than how it's taught to us. So that is where the challenge comes in, because that's not naturally how we should be doing the math. But that's how it's being taught to us. So it's kind of like, I was going to talk to them about that later because we had a whole thing with math yesterday. But yeah, no, that is. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yes, and because the program is designed to instill confidence, like it's part of the course design to instill confidence. When you know, I teach all my students and the students who take the program, um, you know, when you know who you are, you end up walking around into every room that you're in, looking at everybody in the room and saying, "You're welcome."
You gotta say it. Yes.
That's the energy we bring to every room we walk into, because the level of contributions our people have made to the world, that's what we ought to say in every room we go into. And when you're moving through the world with that type of energy, it just gives you the power to really do whatever it is you want to do. So it's really the ground from which any child, any person can build the rest of their lives, whatever they want to do in the world, having that foundation of who they are and that they're
Well, Gareth, that's the whole premise behind Homeschool Your Kids. That's why I tell people identity and purpose are something that is drained out of our kids in school, in the school system. I don't think people really equate the amount of damage it does to an individual to hear for 13 years that you are less than, that you are a slave, that you are a minority, that you are like just anything bottom of the barrel, honey. And for 13 years though, like they start our babies off in kindergarten putting this in them, like, oh yeah, you come from slavery, like your people was this. They don't talk about the inventors, they don't talk about the scientists, they don't talk about the kings and queens, they don't talk about any of that stuff. But
right.
they'll tell you every year how you was a slave. They will tell you
Mhm.
every single year how you are less than. And
Yes,
man, that's so damaging.
yes, it is. And one of the most insidious things about learning about yourself in that way is because if we take a look at the way Black history is traditionally taught, as you just alluded to, it's about basically how what Black people did in response to what white people were doing.
Yes.
Slavery, resistance, civil rights. All of these topics are important, by the way, to know.
Indeed.
But when our entire narrative is constructed around how we responded to what other people were doing, namely what Europeans and white people were doing, subconsciously we end up growing up with this insatiable need and appetite to keep track of what white people are doing and what white people are saying. And what that
Mm,
does is it drains our energy to really be able to live the life that we want to live and to be free to do the things we want to do. Like you
yes.
cannot when if your mind is so preoccupied with survival, like surviving what white people are thinking, what they're doing, what they're saying, if your mind is always in survival mode, it can't be free to build a pyramid.
I say create. Yes.
Yeah, it can't be free to. So it's like we have to start with who are we with no one else in the picture.
Yes.
Who are we? You know, so that we don't define ourselves constantly in conversation with another culture. Like we got to know who we are just with no one else in the room. I feel like that's also why people loved and kids love Black Panther. like the movie Black Panther, and everybody went to the movie about. It wasn't just that, oh, it's a black superhero. It's because we got to see thriving black civilization leading the world in technology and science and art.
Yes.
And I tell people all the time that actually happened multiple times. You know, there classical African civilizations were the world leaders in science, engineering, math, and people from other parts of the world would come to Africa to sit at the feet of our ancestors to learn. There would be no Western civilization as we know without Africans, you know. And so, yeah, so it's just going back to centering ourselves and knowing who we are with no one else in the picture is really important, so that we don't waste our energy trying to fix problems that weren't ours to begin with.
You better say it. You better say it.
How
Yeah.
exhausting is that, right? It's exhausting trying to fix problems that have nothing to do with us.
Nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. That is a thing. That is a thing. Very, very much so. So, okay, tell us more about your program. How is this set up? What does this look like?
So we start with the foundation of all Black history, which is in the Nile Valley. It's completely online with downloadable materials. So you can kind of think of it as, are you familiar with Generation Genius, the science program Generation Genius?
No.
Okay, well, it's basically like it's video based. So you have video lessons. There's three main parts to the program. There's videos, a video lesson that the whole family can watch together. There's reading material that you can download, and there's review activities and games. And so you can go at your own pace. There's enough to sustain you for an entire academic year. If you were to meet every day, if you were to do history every day, you could do. There's something for an entire academic year. And we basically go through the foundations of, we talk about Africa as a continent, some of the misunderstandings about Africa as a continent, how big it is, the diverse geography of Africa, the fact that there's snow and there's ski resorts, and there's, a lot, we kind of go through all the things that the misnomers about Africa. And we talk about why studying our history is important. We talk about, we talk about Marcus Garvey's quote, in the very beginning, we talk about Marcus Garvey's quote, a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a people without roots. It's like a tree without roots. And we talk about why knowing your history is important, because what do roots do for trees? It anchors them to the ground, it filters out toxins, and it absorbs nutrients from the soil. So when you know your history, you can absorb the nutrients of inspiration from your past. You can filter out negativity in the present, and you can be anchored in your identity. So nothing
I love that.
You, right?
Yeah.
So we start from those foundations, and then we move into classical African civilizations. We talk about how Africans gave birth to humanity, how every living human on Earth descends from a Black woman in East Africa that geneticists call mitochondrial Eve, right? So we talk about how our ancestors gave the world the gift of life. And then we move into civilizations like Kush, Kemet, and how these Black civilizations, right, gave the world first written language, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, medicine, the first kings and queens, right? The first nations. And, and we talk about our great heroes. And what's crazy is we're talking about thousands and thousands of years. So, which is why even a year to spend in Kush and Kemet, I mean, you could spend even longer than that, but we go into a lot of depth in a way that kids can understand and relate to, of all ages. right? So there's coloring
Okay.
activities, there's Jeopardy, trivia review type games that you can play as a family. So it's really meant to, you go at your own pace. You can and it's meant to go deep. And there's also discussion questions along the way to kind of help process and connect the dots between history and identity. Because we're always trying to connect the dots between what does this history say about who I am, so that as you
Mm-hmm.
go through the course, your chest just gets fuller and fuller, and your back gets more,
Straight. Yes.
straighter and straighter.
Yes.
Yes, all the way through.
Yes.
Yes. So that is how the program is designed. Yes.
Okay, and it's for all ages, so you have something
All
for
ages.
everyone. Is it broken down into time periods? Because you said it's something for a whole academic year. Is it like years though? How does that look?
So the foundation school. So what's available now for the public is this 1 year course on Nile Valley civilizations. We're talking about the Kingdom of Kush and the Kingdom of Kemet, as well as the um, again talking about the continent of Africa as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So the time periods we're looking at for this within this academic year, we're going all the way from 200,000 years ago to around 600 CE.
Okay.
Now we briefly do cover the kind of the six major classical African civilizations just to kind of give a scope, so that the you know the last what we consider classical African civilization ended around 1300 CE or AD, as some people like to say. But in terms of the civilizations we go into depth in, it's Kush and Kemet. And one of the things that kind of people almost, they really have to um, study it for themselves to really believe, because this is something that we, again, a misnomer that we've been taught, is that what we call ancient Egypt was actually a black civilization. And the name Egypt actually comes from the Greeks. After they invaded, they called it Aegyptos. But the original
Mm-hmm.
name of the civilization, actually the people who built the pyramids, they called their kingdom Kemet, which means land of the blacks or the black land. They called themselves Kemetu, which means the black people. And we talk about that in the part of the course that talks about the kingdom of Kemet. We go through the history, we go through the evidence, we go through the scholars. Like, all of this is rooted in scholarship. The bibliography for the course is very extensive, and we kind of unpack all these things, that because this is really important for kids to know, because everybody assumes Egypt or ancient Egypt was an Arab civilization, but that's not true. It was it was a black African civilization, and that was actually an uncontested historical fact all the way up until the 1700s. So if you read all the ancient um, documents, even the ancient Greeks, what Westerners consider the father of history, he's not, but what Westerners consider the father of history, Herodotus, he acknowledges, that this was a black civilization. He said they had black skin and woolly hair. And so, yeah. And so it really is kind of reclaiming uh, our heritage in a way that kids and folks who, aren't familiar with classical Africa can understand and connect with.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I recently saw something in comparison of saying celebrating our heritage and celebrating history. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Cause I know a lady was saying like why we shouldn't celebrate Black History Month. It should be Black Heritage Month if you're gonna celebrate it. As
Oh,
opposed to history, because it's like I guess
mhm.
it's saying that it's over. It's not still.
Oh, I
there. I don't
see.
know. Yeah,
I
it's
see. I see. I see.
yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that perspective because, Black history is world history.
Mm-hmm.
Like the history of our people is the history of the world because we gave birth to the human race. So I do understand when people say where they want to make that distinction, like, well, no, this isn't a different history. This is history. This is just history. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that perspective. I understand that. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the term Black history. Personally, I'm not against people who don't like using the term, but I'm not against it personally because I know what the other histories are. I don't call other histories just history. I say, well, that's white history, or that's European history, or that's Asian history. Like, I think the problem is when we make certain cultures' history normative. I think that's the problem. Is when
Mm-hmm.
we make the history of other people's the normative history, and we otherize our history. That's a problem.
Mm,
But
indeed.
but if we name everyone's history for what it is, then I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. So
Yes. Say he who controls the narrative controls the world. And the narrative that we've been given or that has been given to us has definitely put Black people at the bottom. Like in every sense of being. Like any books that you look at that talks about like where we came from compared to where we are now, it's like a complete reversal. It's like
mhm.
how do we get here? And it's like that school system, that those the systems in general, it has made sure that we like everything was flipped.
Yeah, and um, I think a lot of it also goes back to just the the hidden violence of certain ways of doing business. Because if we think about the transatlantic slave trade, we think about colonialism. These are business ventures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the distortion of history was rooted in the need to justify the violence that was done in colonial quests, in transatlantic slavery, in the business of transatlantic slavery, in the business of colonialism. There needed to be a narrative to justify the things that they were doing, because you don't go in and smash a chandelier, and if people think the chandelier is valuable, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. But if you convince everyone that the chandelier wasn't worth anything to begin with, people won't complain that you just smashed it to smithereens. And I think that's what Africa had to become. Africa was the chandelier that Europeans and others in the West had to convince the rest themselves and the rest of the world that it can't be worth anything because of the violence that was being done to it. You know,
But the violence
so
was being done to take their resources
exactly,
because of how resourceful the
exactly,
land is and because of
exactly.
all that's so, yeah, like, oh no, don't
Yeah.
look over here. Like, while we over here, but y'all don't
Right,
come over here.
right, right. Exactly, exactly. But you think about it though, like I I tell this to young people all the time. Like, say if you had a big brother, big sister, right?
Oh, hold
You
on.
oh okay,
Okay. Okay, it's back. It was like
it's
some
back.
little humming, but it's back.
Okay,
Yeah. A little different though. It sounds different, but
yeah. If you had a big brother or big sister, if you had to answer the question, do you look up to them? Do you learn from them? Most people will say yes. When you're young, or if you're your parents, like, do you look up to your parents? Do you learn from your parents? The kids will say yes. And then you ask, why is that? Well, because they're older, right? So if someone's older than you, if they're significantly older than you, then they know more because they've been around long, right? That's basically what Africa was to the rest of the world for a long period of time. it was the big brother, it was the big sister, it was the parent, because their civilizations were so much older than everyone else's. They had they had so much not more knowledge, which is why no one had a problem acknowledging them as, you know, the ones with all the answers. You read Plato and Aristotle and Thales, all of these Greek philosophers that folks admire today wrote in their own words. Those folks over there in Africa, thank them for language and writing and math and astronomy. Thank them. I mean, Plato, he marveled at East African culture, the way math was taught to their kids. He wrote about how he really admired the way they used games to teach math to children, right? And so it was no secret that our ancestors were brilliant, were honored, were revered, right? But it wasn't until the greed for the resources and for the knowledge that the narrative began to change. And it's really sad. That's why we gotta take it back. We gotta take our our history back out of the clutches of folks who don't know what they're talking about.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. The more you know, the more you grow. And I know this book that I'm reading now is going to take me through a lot more deprogramming and unlearning that I myself am definitely understanding that I need to do. Because it's not natural. It's like, it's like I don't know. I've always said that our kids are born geniuses and that through the system, it's like it's drained out of them or it's forgotten or pushed to the side because it's like, oh no, focus on this. Or if you can't learn this way, then something's wrong with you. And it's like, no, I can get the answer that you want, but not that way. But they don't accept that. Like, it's like, oh no, your steps have to be you. That's why they have you write out your math steps and they have to look a certain way. Because if they don't look this way, and I'm like, well, but isn't it the focus getting the answer? Why should that's why math turned me off too, is because I could get the answer, but if my work, or if I didn't show work, it was a problem. And it's like, no, but I got the answer. Isn't that the focus? Like, is that it's not what we doing? So it's kind of, it's yeah. Homeschool your kids. And that I say that in the sense of be involved, be hands-on, no matter if your children are, because I know that even though your children are in public school, I know you are still teaching them at home. You are still leading their education. You are still supplementing all that you know that they're not being provided in the school system. So I will always say that to any parent, you should be homeschooling your kid.
Yeah.
Don't just give them away. Don't just give them away.
Homeschool your kids, whether they're in public school, homeschool, whatever kind of school, homeschool.
Charter, yes.
Every type of, because you're always, it's a constant thing.
And I even took the home part off. I said, even if the home is what is intimidating, I don't know. School your kids. You know how people be like, my uncle or my granddad put me up on this, because they schooled you. They schooled you early, like, because they don't want you to go out there looking like no fool. School your kids. Don't have them out here looking crazy, and feed into their confidence, because confidence is everything. And when we lack it, we're not creative. We're not productive. We're not purposeful, because we don't feel like we have the ability to be purposeful.
Right.
So I love what you've created. I love that this is your focus, because we have to know there's so much unlearning that needs to be done and relearning that needs to take place. And I'm grateful for where we are now. With, like, I know people frown on social media and technology and all this stuff, but the information that's coming across these platforms is phenomenal. If you're tapping into that, like, by all means, the algorithm be playing with people and making sure that you get your daily dose of foolishness. And I like foolishness because I like to laugh. But I know the information is there in the masses, and it's reaching the masses because of the technology that we have today. That has always been around if you learn more about, history and what has taken place. So yeah, no, you're doing very important work, sir. You changing generations.
Well, I appreciate it, and it is really it's a joy. It never gets old. Hearing stories from schools, from students, from families, just how life changing. These are the words that I mean. I had one educator uh, called me and said one of my eighth graders wrote on his reflection uh, uh, project. He had to write a reflection on what he'd been learning, and he said, "Learning the true history of where we came from, I realized that being black is my superpower."
Mm, that just gave me chills.
Yeah. He said, "That is why we
Yes.
do. That is why we do what we do. That is why we do what we do." He's set now.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
set now because you know, yeah, that's why we do what we do. Yeah,
Yes.
I get stories
He
like that
comes
all the
from
time.
greatness.
Hmm.
Yes, he comes from greatness, therefore he will be greatness. Like that's the thing. Like knowing and feeding that into our kids is so important. So
Yeah,
important. Game changer. It's game changer.
absolutely, absolutely. It frees you from the burden of having something to prove. I think
Mm,
like you don't like your ancestors have already proven what you're capable of. You don't have anything to prove. All you have to do is just be yourself. Just
yes.
be yourself. And yes,
Do you want to cover more history? Because I know you said that you have up until what 600 years ago. So are you
absolutely.
looking to add more branches of the history?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to add the kingdom of Aksum. We're going to add the kingdom of Ghana, Songhai, Mali. I would love to cover, early African presence in the Americas before Columbus, because there's lots of
Mm.
evidence there of Africans traveling to the Americas, centuries before Columbus did, and the African presence
And being
in
and
parts of the
having
world.
roots there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's why I was gonna ask you that. As far as like genealogy go, I know I was talking to a friend recently, and he was like, "Yeah," and I was tracing back like my grandmother and my great grandmother, my great grand. Like he was like, "Then when none of them slaves." Like it's like,
Mm,
but they were all here though in the
mm,
U.S. They weren't in Africa. They were here, and like it
mm.
was just like that's the thing too. Like I've talked to so many. I love talking to people because, like you said, I love learning from people. So I'm like, teach me,
Yeah.
please teach me. But like that's the thing too with understanding that people we've been here. We are indigenous to this land as well. Those
Right.
indigenous that doesn't escape us. That's like our people came over here and our people have been here for centuries as well. And that's important for people to know too, because they think they own somebody else's land. Like, no, this is yours. This is yours too.
And when we came, we weren't trying to colonize and take stuff over. We weren't trying to, you know, exploit folks, who were here, especially those who came from West Africa and into the Americas. Like we shared knowledge, resources. You know, it was a good relationship, which was not what Columbus was trying to do when he showed up. So, but yeah, so much history to cover, so much history
There
to
is.
explore. Yes, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And I like to tell people, if you came home, from wherever you were, and your family was sitting with you at the dinner table, and they ask, "How was your day?" So they haven't seen you for 24 hours. So you left at dinner time yesterday, and they haven't seen you till dinner time today. And they asked you, "How has the last day been? How did it go?" And if you only told them the last 15 minutes of the day, that's what starting at 1619 is for us.
Mm,
That's what it
Yeah.
is, literally, because it is literally less than 1% of our history from
Of
1619 to now.
civilization,
From
yes.
1619 to now. And so if you really want to know who you are, who we got to go way back. We can't just deal with the last 15 minutes of the day. We got to deal with the whole day.
The whole day.
You got to deal with the whole day.
Yes.
And that's what
Gareth.
your African history is doing.
Yes, dealing with
Full
the
of
whole,
pictures.
yeah, all of it. All of it. You're gonna get this history.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I like that you said it's for anyone to consume because everybody needs it, not just our people. Like that's what people got to understand. It don't pay just for us to know it. Like yes, we need to know it, but these other cultures need to know it just as well. These other races need to know it just as well because they've been lied to just as much.
Yeah, that's right.
And
That's
they
right.
have bought into the stories. They have bought into those narratives, and they walk around in their ignorance because that's what they know. So they have to know this stuff too. So yes, tap in. This is for everybody. You want to know some real history? Tap into real history.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have two things before you go, Garrett.
Yes.
One, with all that you have created, and I mean, you still got those three little people that you're raising. You have this lovely curriculum that you're building and expanding on. How do you make sure that you are replenished and you take care of yourself? How do you self-care?
It has always been, music has always been in the equation. So I like to play, I'm a drummer. That's my first instrument, but I also like to play the piano and I like to play the bass guitar.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I will sit down, throw on some music, and play along on the bass guitar.
Nice.
That gets me right every time.
I love that.
Every
I
time.
love that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Self-care?
I try to make sure I'm eating, relatively healthy. I've got a favorite salad that I've been eating for lunch for like past years. I don't know how long it's been, but it's the same salad that I eat every day for lunch for years now. And yeah, just being mindful of my health, drinking water, and um, community. Spending time with people who love me and I love them, and not trying to do life alone. Making sure
Yes.
you have
Oh,
companions for the journey. And that's really important.
message. Yes. Yes, it is. Tell our listeners, if our listeners didn't hear anything else during this whole conversation, what's three things you want them to take away?
One is um, history is about transformation. Um, and number two, your history doesn't begin with slavery; it begins in Africa. And number three, go to yourafricanhistory.com. Get you
Yes.
get you some history for you, for your family, and watch the transformation happen because it will happen. It's been designed for your empowerment and transformation.
Yes, thank you, Garrett. And parents, understand that we don't have to know it all. I tell my kids all the time, we learning together, love. Like we are learning together. They love me reading the stuff that I'm reading to them out loud to them. Like I'm telling them I'm learning this too. Look, I got my little index cards, all my little write up, my
Yes,
little notes,
yes,
all my stuff.
yes.
Cause hey, you don't have to know it all. It's up to you though to know. Oh, okay, no, I don't know that. It's up to you to want to learn it. It's up to you to learn it. So know that it's okay to be learning with your kids. This is the time. This is our shift. This is how we grow. This is how we change generations. You want to be a part of the solutions, understand that we got to keep unlearning and relearning. Unlearning and relearning.
Absolutely. Can I echo
Yes.
that? Can I add on to that
Please,
real quick?
please,
Because
please.
sometimes the greatest education we can give our kids is them watching us learn.
Yes.
and get excited about learning something that we didn't know before. So, you
Yes.
know, it's an opportunity. If you feel like you don't know a whole lot about, this platform was designed so that you don't have to worry about knowing anything. You just show up and be a student right alongside your kids. You guys learn together. And as they watch you be impacted by the information, you are begun get excited, and then now y'all are talking about it together. That is a really important part of education, being a student
Yeah.
and letting your kids watch you learn.
Life learners. We are all life learners. We do not shut off. We do not shut off. Keep learning, keep growing, keep loving each other, keep teaching, keep growing, and allow your kids to teach you. Allow them to, hey, drop you some fun facts. Mine do it all day, every day about these animals. They always give me some fun facts about animals. But just keep growing together and keep breaking these cycles. Like, this is the time, this is a shift, this is our, like, I love the direction we're headed in. People be seeing, because a lot of people still watch the news and stuff. I don't watch the news. I talk to people, and so I know where we headed, and I love it for us. So keep doing it, keep doing it. And we
Yes,
will definitely have all of Garrett's links available in the description for you to download and check out and access his Your African History. And you're an exhibitor in Maryland, right?
that's right. Yep, I'll be in
Yes, yes.
Baltimore.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. So excited. I'm very excited. But you know what I say, homeschool your kids.